American higher education has a responsibility stronger than it's ever been to provide a fair shot at completing college to all of our citizens. College degrees are worth more today than they've ever been, and their value is accelerating faster than it's ever accelerated. All the malarkey you hear around the country about is our college degrees and credentials really needed anymore. You've heard some of that since the Great Recession is just that. It's crazy talk. What we see is that more than 2/3 of all the jobs going forward in the United States are going to require a college credential. That since the Great Recession, we've seen a tremendous growth in jobs for four-year college graduates. There are now 2 million more jobs available for them than there were even in the heyday before the recession. Whereas for high school graduates only or less, we lost 5.6 million jobs. They were the hardest hit. We all know that during the recession. And since that time, the job market for those continues to decline. Those jobs are gone, and no matter what some politician tells you, they're not coming back. So we have a moral and an economic obligation to the people in this country whom we have traditionally not well served. First generation students, students of color, low income students. If you look at the current state of education in the United States, just to give a flavor of how badly we failed, if you look in some of the latest census data, community census data, what you find is among 24-year-olds, which is at least post-traditional college, in the upper income quartile, about 4 out of 5 have a 4-year college degree. They don't even go to community colleges. I don't know what happened to the other 20%, but maybe we could squeeze a few more college graduates out of that group. But for the most part, if you're born into the upper income quartile, you have to do something to not get a college degree. If you drop to the third quartile, which is solid middle class, which is just below the top quartile, you find that number drops into around 35, 36% with a 4-year college degree. So that's middle class, and that's a huge drop off. And then if you go to the lowest income quartile, it's about 1 in 10 students have a 4-year college degree. That's according to the Pell Institute's annual study of equity in American higher education. So what does that mean? And then you look at the gaps based on ethnicity and race, which are still large and pernicious and persistent across our system. So what that means is unless you believe that being college material is somehow defined by the wealth of the family into which you're born or the color of your skin, Houston, we've got a problem in our higher ed system. Recently, the New York Times and front page analysis showed that our top 100 colleges since 1980 have made no progress in reducing underrepresentation on their campuses for African American and Hispanic students. Now, if you go down a level between that top 100, you do find some progress and growth among other institutions. But the point is we've got a lot of work to do. Now, how do we do that? It's not like this is magic sauce or there's some secret to doing this that nobody knows but a few people. We do have institutions across the country, and they've been identified by the Education Trust in their data analysis. They've been identified by Complete College America, another national initiative, who have made really good progress in reducing or eliminating gaps, college success gaps for students of color, for low-income and first-generation students. How have they done this? I won't go through all the strategies, but they're pretty much well laid out for us. They have good student data where they're able to track students and put them on clear, efficient pathways so they get their degrees in 4 years. They have intrusive advising. They don't wait for the student to show up at the advising center. They're working with the students regularly. They have those pathways, and they ensure that students in their first year complete their math and English requirements, credit-bearing work, and decide on a program of study. It may not be the specific major, but they know they're headed for health or business or education, so they take the right courses on that pathway. There's a lot of other things that you can do. You redesign any kind of developmental education that you have, so you don't have 0 credit courses anymore for these students to be trapped in. So the path and the strategy is not secret sauce. It's laid out there. It's a matter of commitment, leadership, and will. And our institutions need to do a much better job, and our states, in terms of their financial aid programs. The federal government Pell program is targeting these students. Many of our state financial aid programs don't. They under the auspices of some kind of misguided merit-based system. They give way too much money to wealthy people to go to college. That's not true in my home state of Illinois. We have a wonderful system that does target low-income students, but many institutions, states like Florida, Georgia, others around the country waste too much money. In one state, it's called the Car Dealer Relief Program, because the state aid allows wealthy students to have a new car when they go to college. So we need to redesign our financial aid, and we need to put in place these new types of structures, very in loco parentis structural systems that ensure that students move along a clear pathway and get out in the right, with no excess credits in the right amount of time. Because many of these students we're talking about don't have the money or the time to dilly around for 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years and find themselves at college. That's not what they're there for. So it is a moral imperative for American higher education. It is an economic imperative, because if you look at those gaps, those students that aren't getting those degrees, that's a whole talent pool that we're just losing. When I talk to business people who look at the types of students with reasonable test scores and who are either not getting to college or not surviving college from these groups, first generation low income students of color, they are aghast. It's like those are the engineers and the teachers and the scientists and the technology people they need to make their businesses work. And we need that talent in this country desperately right now. We are not a big country like China or India population-wise. We can't afford to cream the rich and only give them degrees. And so I am hopeful that with what we're learning from the various initiatives I've mentioned, that we're really going to begin to see some really good progress among our institutions in serving the needs of this set of students that we've traditionally underserved. In fact, we call them underserved, and that we get them to degrees so they can be live full and good lives themselves and for their families. It will create a generational change in their families. We know that there's no greater anti-poverty strategy than getting one person in a poor family a college degree. It'll have generational changes, and it'll transform this country. It'll begin to address the income inequality problem, and it will put us on a much fairer course that ensures that our democracy will survive.